Okay, so now we're going to take a look at some more complex simplifying expression problems, and we'll look at specifically, we'll try and look at least 3 examples of simplifying expressions. Okay, so here's the first one, the easiest, and these ones now I'm going to start to do a little bit faster. Simplifying expressions. Okay, so here is the first one. 4 simplify number 1, 4x minus 1 minus 3x minus 4 minus 5. So I'll do this faster. So we'll use the distributive property to distribute here, and so we're going to get 4x, and so that's 4 times x, 4x, and then 4 times minus 1, that's minus 4. Okay, now the second one. So when you're distributing with this negative, remember to take the negative with you. So this is really negative 3 into the x, and then here's this negative, and then negative 3 into the 4, which is 12. So let me write it in 2 steps. And then we have the minus 5. So this is 4x minus 4 minus 3x. Okay, so 2 things are going to happen here. First of all, the 2 negatives right there, that's going to become positive. And then this 3 times 4, that's going to become 12 minus 5. All right, now we can look for like terms. We can shuffle things around, if it's helpful. So for example, I can move the minus 3x over here and put the 4 over on the other side. So that way we have our like terms next to each other. And so to combine these, we will add or subtract the coefficients. So 4 minus 3 is 1. And then over here, these numbers, we just add or subtract them from left to right, following the order of operations. Negative 4 plus 12 is going to be 8. 8 minus 5 is going to be 3. And inevitably, someone's going to ask, do I need the 1 in front? And the answer is no. This is the same as saying x plus 3. And in fact, that's the preferred answer. All right. Now let's take a problem with decimals, just to make sure we are okay with decimals as well. So you may want to have a calculator handy when you're doing decimal problems. Might be helpful if you had to multiply and so on. So here is our second simplify problem. So remember, these are all simplify problems, not solve problems. So let's do minus 1.05 4x minus 6 plus 4 times 1.5 y minus 3.05. So apart from the numbers looking weird, nothing else is going on here. So we first start by distribution. So it's this into that. And so here's where a calculator comes in handy. 4 times negative 4 times 1.05 is 4.2. And I know the answer is going to be negative because one's negative and one's positive. So that's 4.2. Okay, so when I'm multiplying these things, when I'm doing the distribution, trying to do it fast, I sort of do things in 2 steps. In my head, I first sort out the sign, plus minus. So in this case, negative times negative is positive. So I'm going to put the plus down, and then I do the multiplication. So I'm not worrying about both of those at the same time. So I go 1.05 times 6 gives me 6.3. Oh, I forgot the x there. So 6.3. All right. Moving on to the next one, 4 times that. So they're both positive, so the whole thing is going to be positive. 4 times 1.5 is 6y. And so in the second part, that's a positive, that's a negative, so I know the answer is going to be negative. So I multiply those two, so that's 4 times 3.05, 12.2, and so those are my terms after the distribution. So I have 4 terms right there, and now I'm looking for like terms. So anything with an x in it, nothing with an x in it, so it's on its own. Negative 4.2x. 6.3, that's a number. Oh, I see a number on the end, so I'm going to switch the two numbers next to each other like so. And again, you don't have to do that step, I'm just doing it so like terms get to be next to each other. So careful on this one, when you're putting it into the calculator, make sure you type it in as you see it. So it's 6.3 subtract 12.2. So 6.3 subtract 12.2, and that's going to work out to be negative 5.9. Negative 5.9, and the y doesn't have a like term to go with it either, so that's the end of that answer, that problem. Simplified. And then finally, let's do a third problem, another one with fractions and some good multiplications and so on, and see how things are going. So here's a pretty extreme problem, right? So 2/3 x minus 2 minus 1/2 x plus 4. Alright, so the first thing to do is to not be thrown by the fractions, just to do the distribution, right? So the distribution is that this 2/3 is going to go into this number there, so that's 2/3 x minus 2/3 times 2, so I sorted the sign. I'm going to write that as 2/1. Notice how careful I am about what goes in the numerator, what goes in the denominator. I always write that very carefully, line things up as carefully as possible. So over here I have to be careful again. There's a minus, so minus times positive is minus, so that's 1/2 times the x. And again, a minus times a positive is minus. That's going to be 1/2 times 4/1. Okay, so let's simplify those fractions as much as possible before I do anything else. So that's going to be 2/3 x minus, multiplying across, 4/3 minus 1/2 x. And over here, minus multiplying across 4/2. And it would be nice if we simplify this fraction, because the simpler it is, the easier it is for us to work with. So it's 2/3 x minus 4/3. That fraction is not going to reduce. 1/2 minus 2. Okay, so this is about the time when I get questions, can I work the problem in decimals? The answer is yes, if the decimal terminates. So it's okay to convert the 1/2 to a 0.5. However, it is not okay to convert the 2/3 into 0.66666, because 6666 goes on forever, or 4/3, because that's, you're going to get a 0.3 repeating there. So if it terminates like a 0.5, no worries, go ahead and turn it into a decimal if that's easier. However, if it doesn't terminate, you have to keep it as a fraction. Alright, so I'm looking for like terms here, okay? So I see like terms. I see that this one here is the same as that one there, if I compare the variables, and then this one and that one match. So let's do a little switching of things around just to get them next to each other so we can assess what's happening. And since fractions are involved, let's write them, things that are not fractions, write them with a fraction so we can clearly see what we have to do. So here we have two things to add. We have to add the 2/3 with the negative 1/2. So let's take that off to the side. So we have to add 2/3 with the negative 1/2, because those are the coefficients of those two like terms. And we know if you have to add, you need a common denominator. And the common denominator in this case is going to be 6. So 6 is the common denominator. So that means I'm going to multiply that by 2 and this one also by 2. It's going to give me 4. That by 3 to get 6 and that by 3. It's going to give me 3. So 4 minus 3 is 1. 1/6. So I can go back to my problem and say this here, these combine to be 1/6 x. And these two fractions, so over here again, off to the side, negative 4/3 minus 2 over 1. LCD is 3, so that's a negative 4. No change there. However, I'm going to multiply this by 3 and that by 3, so that's going to be a negative 6. So negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10. So I can now bring that piece back into the problem, minus 10 over 3. And there is your final answer. Alright, that's it for simplifying expressions.